Making your own homemade pasta is easy, and kneading the dough by hand really does make a difference. So all you need is eggs and flour. I'm going to start with the flour, and I'm going to put it on my board in a nice even mound. Should look like a nice, pretty even mountain. And then out of the mountain, I make a volcano with my fingers, go all the way down, and then I want to push the flour off to the side so that I make a well that's going to be large enough to hold the eggs. And I'm going to be making a 3-egg dough today. So I have to push the flour aside to really hold those eggs and so they don't run out. Here we go. That's big enough. So then we crack the eggs and break them in like this. And pasta hates cold temperatures, so it's really important to take the eggs out of the refrigerator ahead of time so that they're not too cold. And also, you should try to make pasta on a surface that's not really cold. So stainless steel is not a good surface. I don't like making pasta on granite. Wood is really the best surface to make pasta on. So this first step is really just about mixing the yolks and the whites together. And I use a fork and mix the eggs together as if I'm making an omelette, just like this. And once you see that the yolks and the whites have mixed together, then you can start incorporating the flour. And I do that with the tines of the fork, grabbing a little bit of the flour from around the edges over here, trying to make sure that I don't take it all from one side, so that I always keep my walls even. And then I just keep mixing with the fork like this, incorporating that flour. This first step is really just about getting enough flour into the eggs so that they're firm enough that I can actually work with them with my hands and I can get rid of the fork. So just keep mixing just like this. It doesn't matter exactly how much flour you get in here. You just want to get enough flour in so that the eggs get thicker. And when you see that they're lifting up from the bottom like this, then we can get rid of the fork. I just scrape everything off the fork like this, put the fork aside, and I can bring the rest of the flour in, but not all of it, because I don't know if I'm really going to need all of this flour. You never know. Sometimes eggs are a little bit smaller, or the air may not be quite as humid, so it's best to push some of the flour aside. We can always add it later. And now we're ready to bring in the rest of the flour like this with our hands. So just bring everything in towards the center and start making this into a dough, just like this. And once you get used to this, you'll be able to tell just by the feel whether you need to add more flour or not. But the first few times, don't add more flour right away, okay? Because it's much easier to add a little bit more afterwards than to end up with too much flour and too hard of a dough. This dough feels a little bit soft to me, and another way to tell is if it's too sticky, if it sticks to your hands or it sticks to the board. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour, and then I'm going to start the kneading process a little bit, but the kneading process for real is going to be the next step. This is really just to incorporate the flour into the eggs. This step is to get the right amount of flour in, so we have the right consistency. The dough should be, fairly soft but not sticky. And I can use a scraper to get the stuff that's stuck to the board like this, work it back in. A little bit more flour, I think. Now, when you feel that it seems like it's a good consistency, and if you open it up a little bit, it's not too sticky inside, then you're ready to go on to the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up with some plastic, just temporarily, so that I can clean my hands off of all these little bits that are starting to dry out, and I want to clean the board well so that I have a clean surface to really knead the dough properly.